Hi guys, welcome back to Beyond the Cowl. You've got Sammy here, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Week 4, the Bobble Shell Stitch. So starting out, if you're starting from scratch and not working into the top of some previously existing work, like your blanket, you're going to do a foundation chain that's multiples of 6 plus 2. So recommended for a blanket 120, 240, 360, as the same as the previous stitches. So once you've done your foundation chain, you go to work back through it, going into the second chain from the hook, popping a single crochet into each and every stitch, making sure that you've got 240, 120, whatever size you're working to. If you're working into the top of your blanket, as I am, you are going to go along and pop a single crochet into each and every stitch. So chain 3 spaces, get 3, 1 into the top of the bobble stitch from last week, and 1 into the single crochet. Now the aim of doing this is to give us a nice foundation for working our next stitch style, which we're doing today, and also to check that your stitch count is the same as you started. So if you started with a foundation chain of 240, you want to have 240 stitches here. Now if for any reason your stitch count is off, just add those couple of extra stitches in on the row somewhere. It's not going to hugely affect the look of your blanket. It's still going to look amazing. It's just going to mean you've got that perfect start for the bobble shell stitch today. So I'll let you guys go, and I'll meet you back here once you've got your row of single crochet. Also, if you do one row and you're looking at the back of your blanket, so the smooth side, not the side with the bobbles from last week, just do a second row of single crochet. You want to be starting this stitch pattern on the right side of your blanket. Okay, see you soon. Alright, I've got my row of single crochet done. Working our pattern for row 2, I'm going to chain 3. It could be row 3 if you've done 2 of single crochet, but let's call it row 2. And I'm going to pop a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Some of my stitches are looking a little funny from a test run I was doing of the pattern. Alright, now we're going to do the bobble shell stitch. So into the next stitch from the previous row, we're going to do 9 double crochet, seven, 8, and 9. Now, I'm going to pull up that loop and drop it. Back at the beginning, I'm going to go between the first and second stitch in that group of 9. I'm going to push my little shell down, grab that other loop, pull it through, and do a chain of 1 to finish it. So you can see it's sitting down. From there, I got to lift it a little to get into the next stitch. I'm going to do 5 double crochet, 1 into each of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And then we're going to bobble stitch again. You can see my bobble stitch has popped open a little. I'm just going to push that back out. When you finish, if you're having a problem with them still popping open after you've popped them all the right way, you could always anchor them down with a little bit of thread. Okay, so bobble stitch again. 9 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pull up the loop, going between the first and second double crochet of the set. So not into a stitch between them, pushing that fan down, grabbing the loop I dropped, pulling that through, and then doing a chain of 1 to anchor that stitch. And just positioning it properly with my hands. Then we're back again, 5 double crochet, four, 5, and then bobble. So we bobble shell stitch. So we're going to repeat that pattern all the way across the row. 5 and then a bobble shell stitch. And you do need to just reposition them a little to get them to sit properly. As I said, if they're popping out of place and you're not happy with how they're sitting, you can always anchor that in with a little bit of thread once you've finished this section of stitches. I'll let you guys finish this all the way to the end. The last set you're going to, after the last bubble stitch, you're going to have 3 stitches left. They'll all be double crochet to finish the row, and I'll meet you back here for row 3. Okay guys, I haven't quite finished my row, but I'm under a little bit of time push here, so we're going to pretend I have so I can show you row 3. So I've got my bobble stitch there. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Okay, now we're ready to work row 3. So a chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to pop a single crochet into the first stitch and into each stitch along the row. 2, 3, 4. Now it's really, really important to keep count of your stitches. So you're going to have 3 double crochet that you're working in, and then you're at the first bobble stitch. Now I've tightened my chain space way too much to put a stitch in there. If you can anchor your stitch through that chain space, do that. Otherwise, go into the space created there and then continue. So between our bobble stitches we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I highly recommend counting every set so that you don't drop a stitch. It's quite easy with the bobble stitch, working through the back of that, to drop a stitch, and then your count's going to be off. So just ensure 5 between each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then into the top of that bobble stitch. So I'll let you guys finish all the way to the end of your row. I'll meet you back here to show you row 4 because we're offsetting our bobble stitches a little. I'll see you soon. Okay, finished out that row of single crochet. You can see I'm back on the front with my lovely bobble stitches sitting there beautifully. Bit of movement and just pop them back into place. Now row 4 we're offsetting our bobble stitch. So I'm going to do a chain of 3. And bobble into the same stitch. Now if you don't want to bobble into the same stitch because if you're going to add a border to this project it could make things a little difficult, I would just double crochet into the next 6 stitches. So replace the bobble with a double crochet, and then our next one will be here. For the purposes of the video we'll stick to the pattern and add 9 double crochet into the same stitch as our chain space. Pull up the loop after we've done our 9. Now remember we've got our chain space there, so we're going to miss that. We're going to go in between the first and second stitch of the cluster, push the cluster down, our little fan or shell, grab the loop that we've dropped. We're moulding the stitch to the shape we want as we pull it through, and then doing a chain 1. And you're going to kind of pull it to the side to get into the next one, the next stitch, and again we're repeating that pattern we did in row 2 of 5 double crochet, and 5. So this is going to position this row of bobble stitches as you're working. They can get a little unruly and you just pop them back in. They seem to sit the best if you kind of curl them in under each other, which is what I did when I was tightening that stitch. So this row will sit in the center of the last row. So we've got a bobble stitch here, and we're going to continue that same pattern of 5 double crochet and then bubble shell stitch. On this row, however, we won't be finishing on double crochet, we will be finishing on a bubble shell stitch, unless of course you're wanting to edit the pattern a little and use double crochet for those last 6 stitches instead. Alright, I'm going to let you guys finish off that row. Following this we just do a repeat of row 3, which is our single crochet, remembering to very carefully keep count so you don't drop any stitches. So if you're doing a set each day, you'll do rows 2 to 5 each day. I hope you've all enjoyed learning the beautiful bobble shell stitch. Until next time, have a fantastic day and happy hooking.